What is up, guys? Today I'm super excited to make this video. We're going to be looking at Izzy versus Israel Adesanya. I have my notebook here with some notes that I have. We're going to break this video down into 5 categories, looking at, and comparing these two amazing fighters. Number 1, we're going to look at striking. We're going to look at takedown and wrestling. We're going to look at mental warfare, defense and damage taken, and last but not least, killer instinct, that male mentality, that champion drive to claim and take all the marbles on the table. So some backstory, how do we even get to this point of having these two juggernauts, even in the same sentence, our potential fight? Usman's manager pretty much said, hey, these two superstars may be ready, may be down to have a big fight if they continue to wash the division. Usman may be willing to move up to middleweight and fight Izzy. So yeah, so in this fictitious scenario, guys, this fight will be happening next year, assuming that Usman and Adesanya continue their tear in their individual divisions, and they meet next year, or like probably around the summertime, right? So again, we're gonna hop right in now. So first category is striking, and this is obviously the one that's most exciting to talk about, guys. Everyone loves to see a brutal, elbows, knees, everything, right? This one's tough, guys, right? Because must I remind you, we've seen the progression of Kamaru Usman as a striker, right? We saw his fantastic brawl with Kobe Covington in the first fight, but then, in which he finished Kobe Covington, right? But then we saw Kamaru Usman, right, with, I believe, Robert Whitman as his coach, start to become a really, really good striker, guys. Gilbert Burns knocking him down with the jab. Knocking Kobe down a second time in their rematch, right? Knocking the daylights out of Jorge Masvidal, right? So we see Usman as a very, very powerful striker. But on the flip side, guys, must I remind you that we've seen Israel Adesanya pretty much damn near, I believe he TKO'd Kevin Gastelum, TKO'd Robert Whittaker, and we've seen him do the same thing with Paulo Costa, right? So we've seen Usman TKO a lot of people, but so on the flip side has Adesanya. And the reason why, right? So we both know both these fighters have great striking abilities, right? And they have knockout power. They have the ability to shut the lights off on their opponent, right? But if these two people, if they were to go into a fight with each other, right, it comes down to who can really control the distance and control the pace of this fight. And I'm inclined to really give an advantage to Israel Adesanya. Why is that? Israel Adesanya is obviously going to have a reach advantage. And if you ever see an Izzy fight, which I'm sure many of you have, you see that he really is a master tactician when it comes to managing distance and using his range effectively. He's always thinking 2 steps ahead. We saw it in his rematch against Melvin Vettori, where he pretty much outclassed him all 5 rounds, guys. We saw it again in his rematch against Robert Whittaker. He's just a very composed striker. He knows how to utilize his distance. And guys, I just don't see Usman outstriking Izzy. I just don't see it, right? I don't see him coming in and landing anything meaningful on Israel Adesanya, right? Like, we saw Robert Whittaker try to do it damn near in the rematch, right? Couldn't really do much. We also saw him do it in the first match against Israel Adesanya, and he got hit with a left check hook. So guys, this is up for interpretation, up for debate, but I struggle to see Usman effectively getting into distance, striking Izzy, especially against, Adesanya, right? A striker someone who's a tactician, knows how to manage a distance so well, someone who is a textbook kickboxer and so effective with using his limbs, elbows, strikes, knees, anything he needs be to keep his opponent at bay. So in the section of striking, guys, I'm gonna have to give the slight edge to Israel Adesanya. So next up, guys, is going to be takedowns and wrestling. And this one is pretty damn near case closed in favor of Kamaru Usman. But I posit this question, right? I mean, we know Kamaru Usman has exceptional ground game, right? We know he's an amazing wrestler along with Kobe Covington. But, guys, is it enough to hold down Israel Adesanya? Can Kamaru Usman hold down and control Israel Adesanya? And that is a question that I don't know, right? Because if you or even though we give Kamaru Usman the clear advantage in takedowns, right, and wrestling, the only person who we've seen, guys, right, who has been able to take down Israel Adesanya and really control and hold him down there has been Jan Blachowicz. And that's only because he was the bigger person. Like, and Israel moved up to light heavyweight for that bout. And that's the reason why he was able to get taken down and pretty much, held down for that long. Mind you, he didn't really take much damage. Ron just kind of like sat on him. So, and we also saw, we just saw in the rematch as well, guys. We literally just saw in the rematch Robert Whitaker try to do the exact same thing in terms of taking out Izzy, right? Mind you, he got his takedowns, but Izzy has gotten so much better at scrambling, getting to the fence, and staying off his back and staying off the mat, guys. I mean, if we're doing things based off of evidence, I mean, I don't know, right? Again, Usman will be giving up size and weight if he's moving up to middleweight. Is that going to affect his ability to hold down Israel Adesanya? I don't know. This one's a tough question to judge, right? But in terms of strictly wrestling and takedown ability, this is a clear favorite in terms of Kamaru Usman. Now, next up, guys, is mental warfare, the ability to get into your opponent's head. This one can kind of go either way, guys. I just have a few notes here referring to Robert Whitaker, pretty much acknowledging that, hey, Israel Adesanya was able to get inside his head before the first match, and that kind of got into his head, had a pretty poor performance in their first fight. Also mentioned Paul Acosta. He gave a weird excuse saying that he had wine to calm the nerves down before his fight with Izzy. So Izzy does know how to get into his opponent's head. He does know how to troll people. The same can also be said for Kamaru Usman. Maybe it wasn't as evident against someone like Kobe Covington, who is all shenanigans, right? But yeah, I mean, both of them are pretty good at mental warfare. If I had to give a slight edge to someone, I mean, I don't know. I'll just give this one down the middle, guys. Both of them will probably go into some mental warfare. We've seen both of them kind of talk trash to each of their opponents going into fights. So yeah. Okay, guys. Next one is defense and damage taken, or defense. There's a defense, guys. Ability to avoid taking damage. This one is almost equally as hard to judge, right? Because we've seen both Usman and Adesanya take a lot of damage in their fights. I mean, guys, we saw the dog fight, which was Usman versus Kobe 1. We also saw the dog fight, which was Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya as well, where both fighters kind of had to dig deep and took a lot of damage and finished the fight, but both took a lot of damage there. We saw Usman rocked in his fight against Gilbert Burns, but ability to come back and rally. I guess man, this one's tough because again, I kind of go back to what I said during striking, right? Izzy is someone who is very hard to hurt. I mean, if you've seen his last couple of fights, guys, I mean, sure, you can make the argument they've been lackluster, but they're lackluster because Adesanya just refused to kind of get hit. You know what I'm saying? And the same can also be said for Usman, right? He's outclassing a lot of his opponents. I will say that in his second fight against Kobe Covington, we did see Usman get hit sometimes. He did get rocked at one point as well. But again, I go back to the fact that Adesanya also has gotten rocked. I think in a potential fight, whose defense will be better? again, I don't know, guys. Both these fighters can take damage. Both of them have been in dog fights. I'm really not sure. This one maybe may have to be another draw, guys. This one may also have to be another draw. Um, if not a draw, probably a closer advantage to um, Adesanya. Again, guys, only because his ability to maintain distance and control. He's really good at that. You see his head movements as well. Usman, sometimes when he gets into exchanges, he sometimes can get very wild. You know what I'm saying? Opens himself up to get countered and stuff like that. And we saw that happen in the first Kobe fight. Um, and then last but not least, guys, is the killer instinct, right? That champion ability to dig deep and, again, take all the marbles off the table. And again, we saw Kamaru Usman get rocked in the first round against Gilbert Burns, come back and ends up knocking Gilbert Burns down with a jab. First fight, Kobe Covington, that fifth and final round, um, you know, Kamaru Usman taking a lot of damage, being a champion, and finishing up the show in the fifth and final round when it was needed. I go to Israel Adesanya when he was versing Kelvin Gastelum. That famous video of him, I think in the fifth round, where he was like, I'm willing to die in order to win this match. And he goes out and I believe TKOs Kelvin Gastelum. So both of them, have that ability to go out there and get that killer instinct. But I'm gonna have to give the advantage here to Kamaru Usman. Only because, guys, again, Izzy's last couple of fights have been relatively lackluster. I don't believe he's really going out there to finish guys anymore, as opposed to Kamaru Usman, where he is looking to dominate 10-8 rounds. He's looking to punish you. Izzy more so seems like he's just okay with, again, guys, just outclassing you, but not putting you out, not putting like a stamp, on, hey, I'm that much better than you. He's not really looking for finishes, as opposed to Kamaru Usman, who I believe is always looking for 10-8 rounds, always looking to wrestle, ground and pound, and just show up his opponent in every way possible. So in killer instinct, I'm gonna have to give it to Kamaru Usman. That means if this fight goes down to the fifth round and it is a close fight, at Kamaru Usman, I would give the edge in terms of going out there and finding a way to finish Israel Adesanya. Now, we're gonna, transition to the second part of this video, which is pretty much me just mentioning how I really think this fight going, how I see this fight going, and how I see, keys to victory for both fighters. First and foremost, obviously for Israel Adesanya, I see him trying to keep the distance against Kamaru Usman, not letting him get close, avoid being taken down by any means necessary. That means, if he gets into a grappling exchange, staying against the fence, right, scooting against the fence, he needs to avoid being taken down in the middle of the octagon, because again, guys, Kamaru Usman is one guy you do not want on top of you. So yeah, Israel Adesanya, just stick to the outside. I believe that if he does beat Kamaru Usman, it will be based off of points. I don't believe that he would actually finish Kamaru Usman, right? Like, it will be based off of points. It will be based off him keeping to the outside, throwing kicks, setting up elbows, setting up knees, very John Jones-like. On the flip side, I see Kamaru Usman trying to go for a lot of takedowns in this fight, keeping Adesanya in the middle of the octagon, controlling him, ground and pound if he has to, using the double jab or trying to jab his way inside, very much like Robert Whitaker, trying to get a double leg and keeping Adesanya in the middle of the octagon and ground and pound, right? Do I think Kamaru Usman could potentially finish Adesanya in the ground and pound? No, but I do think that it's possible that, if Izzy does not find a way or can't get back to his feet, a lot of rounds can be pretty 10-8ish, guys, right? It could get scary, which is why, this all circles back to my main point or my main question. And I think the main, really driving point is, can Kamaru Usman take down and hold Israel Adesanya? Because if he can win this fight, and he can win this fight pretty convincingly, right? And on the flip side, right, if he can't do that, I find a hard time of seeing Kamaru Usman, moving up in weight, going in and outclassing Kamaru Usman in strike. I'm outclassing Israel Adesanya in striking. I really can't see that happening, guys. I obviously gave striking to Israel Adesanya, so I don't see Kamaru Usman getting up in weight and sitting and sticking with a approach of on the feet fight, right? I don't see him winning an on the feet fight all 5 rounds against Israel Adesanya. He'll need to take him down. Does he? Can he? I don't know, guys. That's tough to decide. Right? So, yeah. So I guess, long story short, guys, if this fight stays on its feet, I would give the edge to Israel Adesanya. If at any point, if Usman is able to control and take down Israel Adesanya, it will be a long night for Israel Adesanya. But yeah, that's kind of like my mindset, guys. I would not want to be a betting man on this potential super fight, guys. So with that, that concludes my little bit of a breakdown video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks, and subscribe here for more videos like this in the future. Typically movie reviews, but wanted to do the content for today.